Shine on, harvest moon. Holidays were rare during the war, but I remember a brief stay at Breen on the North Somerset coast. The family rented a caravan with Mother's younger sister Phyllis. Her husband Albert, one of the uncles, was in Burma and destined not to return. My brother and I had our two cousins for that week, where we played in the sand dunes among the recently constructed pillboxes. We paddled and swam between the hundreds of wooden poles erected on the miles of sandy beaches to deter German air transports from landing. It was thought that the Somerset coast would be a very likely place for the planned German invasion. By the time we were holidaying there, the Allies were already in Normandy. Father had taken us to Breen in the family Austin 7 and had returned home as he had to work. He came again the next weekend to collect us. I remember my mother and her sister laughing a great deal and playing jokes on each other. Sad times were ahead, especially for Phyllis and the children. With peace came some normality, and with Father having a whole week's holiday, we were able to go to Weymouth for our holidays. This became for several years a regular pilgrimage, the last week of July. The first week of the school summer holidays was sacrosanct as the family holiday. The school summer break was bookended between that event and the Chewstoke Harvest Home. The show, always the first Saturday in September, was held in a field named Hedgehogs, opposite the milk processing factory, Mendip Milk. This event was planned for and awaited all the summer long. By the Thursday night before the show, the funfair would have arrived, and Friday was the day to see the dodgems and waltzers being erected. They were at one end of the field, and the marquees for the flower and vegetable show at the other. In between, the tug-of-war pitch and the athletics arena would be marked out on the remaining rough grass. By Friday evening, the funfair would be in full swing. Teenage boys standing up on the waltzer and leaning inwards to counteract centrifugal forces, doing this to impress both girls and their mates. Early Saturday morning would see villagers taking produce and handiwork to the appropriate stalls in the marquee for judging. Classes for flowers, vegetables and home cooking were all keenly contested. Village children were encouraged, or rather directed by teachers, to enter the competition for best handwriting, best story, no more than 500 words, drawing and painting. Girls could compete with samples of knitting and sewing. Most of the local boys would have entered the white butterfly competition, probably a hangover from the war. When the cabbage white butterflies started to fly, boys would catch and kill them and put them in jam jars. Come the harvest home, a prize of 2 and 6pence for the most butterflies collected was a reward worth swatting for. Techniques were varied. I preferred a bundle of brashy sticks like a witch's broom rather than a net, as it was the number killed, not their condition, that was important. As the jars filled up, they would give off an unpleasant odour, and the judges of this event would have to count every one of those decaying insects. Ugh. By early Saturday afternoon the judging was over. The villagers surged into the marquee to see what they or their neighbours had won. Winning, contrary to that oft-quoted platitude, was more rewarding than just taking part. Some competitors took losing to a rival with little grace. Happy the boy or girl who had won even a modest prize, always cash, that would be quickly spent on fairings, toffee apples, not my favourite, or candy floss. The creaky and squeaky public address system, Mr. Bryce's valve amplifier and loudspeakers on a homemade bicycle trailer, would announce the athletics. It started with the girls. They took the field for such sophisticated events as the three-legged race, the sack race and the egg and spoon race. Next, the same for boys, and then mixed. Finally, the 100 yards dash, all winners receiving modest cash prizes. I remember no event for women. Emancipation arrived late in our valley. Meanwhile, the dads would have been getting in some training in the Simmons and George's beer tents for their big moment, the no handicap 100-yard dash, only approximate. The men were from 15 years upwards and were stripping down for the event. Bilbers would be handed to wives or girlfriends, jumpers would be jettisoned, ties loosened, braces exposed and belts tightened. Perhaps among the younger competitors a pair of shorts would be observed. A sign of things to come? The final and much awaited athletic event of the day was the tug of war. Several teams, some of them from quite far away, would be there, and the local favourites, Felt Neckles, would go on to be national champions on several occasions. In the team was Uncle Victor, Vic to one and all, a Marine veteran, missing several toes, which didn't seem to affect his pulling. He later went on to coach this most successful team. Nearly as much energy was expended by the spectators in shouting and screaming encouragement. They would crowd so close, sometimes touching the pullers, to the extreme annoyance of the coaches. They, in turn, would yell threats and obscenities at the encroaching crowd. Felt Neckles would be awarded the cup, and the other teams would accept the crumbs of the afternoon's awards. This was as it should be in the scheme of things. The crowds melted away from the now scuffed and rutted arena. They made their way past the collection of straining diesel engines, powering equally elderly generators. Their cables snaked through the grass, providing the power that gave light and life to the now wide awake and enticing fair. The favourite rides were the dodgems and waltzers, but these rides had to be rationed as they were expensive. The roundabouts, although capturing my imagination with the stylised and to me wonderfully painted and gilded animals, was rather a tame ride. Wandering between the booths with our friends, we would be enticed to spend money trying to win prizes that we didn't really want anyway. Dave, my mate, whose mother was landlady of a pub in a nearby village, had ample opportunity to polish up his darts and could score under 21 with 3 darts with unfailing regularity. He was soon taken aside by the stallholder and told to
piss off out of it.
Uncle Fred, mother's youngest brother, made a great show at the Coconut Shy booth. Pitching the wooden balls like Joe DiMaggio, the famous baseball player, lifting his leg high in the air before releasing the ball and nearly taking the canvas off the back of the booth, but failing to dislodge a single nut. You needed to keep just enough money to invite the girl you wanted to walk home with to a ride of her choice just before the hooter sounded, announcing the imminent closure of the fair. I wasn't always lucky. The walk home along Chew Lane now seems always to have been in moonlight. A stream of people with very few cars to trouble them chattered and sang their way home. Groups formed, drifted apart and reformed like flocks of starlings seeking a roost. Tired youngsters would be hauled upon their father's shoulders, and imperceptibly the jollity of the day receded, with the growing realisation that the event marked the end of the summer holiday, and that Monday was the start of a new school term.